welcome to another Every Tuesday tutorial. In this week's tutorial, we're creating a watercolor carrot doodle completely in Procreate. So what you see on screen is exactly what we're creating together. The color palette is free as always. Just tap on the link in the video description. You can download and install it. The brushes that we're using for this are from my paid watercolor illustration brush set, but if you'd like to change up the style, please feel free to use any brushes that you would like. I'm going to create a brand new document that's 1500 pixels by 1500 pixels at 300 dpi, and then we'll get started. Okay, I've got my brand new document all created, and the first thing we're going to do is create a sketch of our carrot, and then we'll add in all the details and all of the watercolor painting. So I like starting with my sketching pencil, and I like keeping it black, so just double tap at the bottom and you'll get true black. So I'm going to walk you through my process of these watercolor doodles using a carrot as an example, but you could really apply this exact same process to any vegetable or fruit that you would like. So I'm going to start off by drawing just the basics of my carrot. So the main carrot part, and then the stem, and then the leaves that are on that stem. If you want to keep it symmetrical, you can turn on your symmetry settings. Up here, you're just going to tap on the wrench, come over to Canvas, turn on Drawing Guide, hit Edit Drawing Guide. Down here, you're going to tap Symmetry, and the default is exactly what you need. It's kind of hard to see, so I'm going to make this a little darker so you can see it better on screen, and then I'll thicken it up as well. All right, so under symmetry, if you just hit options, I want it to be vertical with assisted drawing turned on, hit done. And now I can draw whatever on one side, on the other. So I'm going to make it really cute. So my top is really fat and my bottom is a little skinnier, but very rounded all the way around. So this is all I really needed the symmetry settings for. So I can turn off my guide. So hit the wrench and then just toggle off drawing guide, and then come over to your layers. And on this layer 1 where it says assisted, we need to turn that off. So we're not repeating whatever we draw on one side on the other. So just tap on the layer thumbnail and turn off drawing assist by tapping it. And now we're all set. I'm going to label this one sketch. So now we can draw in the rest of our carrot. So for my carrot, I'm going to add in a few line details, just little things that make it really obvious to the viewer what the subject matter is. So I've got a few cute little lines in there, and then I'm going to draw the stem. So I'm going to draw a whole bunch of these up, and feel free to refer to a reference image of an actual carrot if you'd like. I looked at a bunch of them before I started drawing and kind of made mental notes because I still wanted to make it my own so it looked more illustrative than just a drawing based off of a photograph. So that's why I'm drawing this without a reference image. And then up here, these ones are really leafy, the stems on a carrot. So I'm going to just notate those like this. So now it's time to kind of look back and check out your sketch before you start painting to make sure all the proportions are what you would like. I'm going to move this down because it feels a little high on my canvas, and make sure it all looks the way that you would like it to look. Any extra details you want to draw in. Down here on a regular carrot, the stem gets really thick where it enters the carrot, so that's why I made these a little chunkier, just to notate that for myself as I'm painting it in. And I'm just going to fill in any gaps up here. That way I get the character that I'm looking for. So that looks pretty good to me. So now I can just use this as my base for everything else that I'm doing. So now we bring in our color, and we're actually only using 3 colors for this entire thing. We're going to start off with the carrot first, and then we'll work our way to the stem. So I'm going to grab my orange, and we're going to give ourselves a base layer of paint. So I'm going to create a brand new layer, and we're just going to label this one carrot base. I'm going to grab my medium paint round. This is from that watercolor illustration brush set. Grab that paintbrush, and if you've used these paintbrushes before or watched one of my other tutorials using these, you know you have to keep your stylus on the screen until you finish painting your shape. Otherwise, you're going to get that wet on dry technique look, which is totally fine if that's what you're going for, but if you don't want that, just make sure you keep your stylus on screen. So I'm basically just painting in the lines. Okay. So there's that, and now I want to add in a little bit of depth by adding an extra layer of color, and I'm going to do that by creating a brand new layer right above it. I'm going to change the blend mode to multiply, so drag this up to multiply, and then I'm going to paint using the same exact color, same orange, only it's going to appear darker now because we've changed the blend mode to multiply, and I'm only going to paint this left edge just to darken that up. And we want this transition from the dark to the light base to be seamless. So we're going to add in a little bit of smudging to smooth that out. So we're going to grab our smudge tool and we're going to come down here and grab our spot bleed brush first. And I'm going to reduce the size down to 4%. And I'm just going to push the edge. So it's almost like stippling, but I'm going to lift up my stylus each time and push that edge because I don't want that hard line to appear. And down here, it's getting nice and soft. I'm going to push this a little bit more. So up here where it's much darker and even down here, if I want to soften up that edge even more, I can grab my smudge tool and change it to my soft wash, and that will soften it even more. Okay, if we turn off our sketch layer, you can see what it's looking like so far. So I really like the look of that. So I want to add an additional layer of this shadow on the left side that's giving me some extra depth. So I'm going to create a brand new layer and we're going to do the exact same thing that we just did. I'm turning my sketch layer back on. I'm on this new layer. I'm going to return to my medium paint round. And once again, let me change the blend mode of this to multiply because we want it to appear darker. And I'm going to paint this side one more time. So you can see how it's getting even darker, and that multiply blend mode is what allows us to do that. And then we're going to smudge one more time. I like starting with the spot bleed brush because it helps me get rid of this line much quicker. And then I like finishing it off with either the soft wash or the dense wash. We'll use the dense wash this time. Okay, I'm going to grab the dense wash, make sure this is around 3%, and just push those edges. Okay, let's turn off our sketch layer and see what that looks like. And that looks exactly what I was going for, so I'm really happy with that. And the next thing we're going to do is add in those dark lines here. So I'm going to create a brand new layer. I'm going to change my blend mode to multiply again because I want this to be darker than my base color. I'm going to grab my round liner brush up here this time. And my size for my round liner brush is going to be 3%. And I'm just going to draw in these lines exactly as I have them. Actually, I'm going to make this a little bigger. Let's go up to 5%. Okay, turn off the sketch layer, see how that looks. So if we want to soften these a little bit, we can smudge them. I'm going to use my spot bleed brush for this and just stipple along it, just because I want it to be soft, but I still want it to look like a line. I don't want to smudge it so much that it just looks like a dark spot instead of a line. So I'm just stippling on top of it. All right, now we're ready to move on to our stem. So I'm going to turn my sketch layer back on. I'm going to group all of my carrot elements together. So just drag them over to the right, group them. We'll label this group carrot, create a brand new layer right above it. And now we're going to use two different greens for this. So I'm going to grab my second green first, right here, this one in the middle. I'm going to grab my medium paint round brush and draw in a bunch of these stems. So I'm just going to draw the stems first, and then I'll draw in the leaves. Let's turn off the sketch layer. I like going back and forth between my sketch layer and what I've drawn just to take a look at what I've already done. I'm going to fill this in down here because I know that this part gets much thicker. I'm also noticing that this is kind of to the left and I'd like it centered a bit more. So now is the best time to make those adjustments. So I like how that is looking. Let's create a brand new layer right above it. And I'm going to grab my other green color and just fill this in. Since this part is really loose to begin with, I don't refer to my sketch as much. I'm just kind of filling it in and going by eye. All right, so now I'm going to return to my first layer, my lighter green color. So let's label this one light green, and I'll label this top one medium green. Okay, so I'm coming back to my light green, and I'm going to grab it over here, so the one right in the middle. I'm coming back to my medium paint round, and just going to paint in some leaves here. So I'm drawing up, down, just like that, and putting them all over the place. I'm going to come up to my medium green layer, grab my medium green color, and do the exact same thing. Okay, and then to add just a little bit more detail, I'm going to create a brand new layer above my medium green layer. I'm keeping my medium green, but I'm changing the blend mode to multiply. And I'm going to change my brush to my round liner brush. and just do a few sketches right on top of the areas that I just painted, and that will define them a little bit more as leaves, just by giving them a little extra detail. I'm going to do the exact same thing with my light green, so come to my light green layer, create a brand new layer right above it. I'm going to change the blend mode to multiply, return to my light green color, and once again I'm using the round liner brush. So that is our carrot. I'm looking at it and thinking that I want just a little bit more green up here. So I am going to give myself just some background color behind all this. So I'm going to tap on my carrot group, create a brand new layer. I'm going to paint some spots using my medium paint round brush. So I'm just giving myself some blocks of color back here to make it seem a little more full. And I'm going to use my smudge tool and grab my soft wash and just push these around a little bit. Okay, I'm going to do the exact same thing, create a brand new layer, grab my medium green and paint just blocks of color back here, just a few of them, and then grab my smudge tool and smudge them around. So that is feeling much more full now, so I'm feeling really good about that. The last things that I want to do is add some paint splatter on here and then a watercolor paper texture. So I'm going to create a brand new layer up at the very, very top. I still have my green selected, so I'm going to switch my brush to my bleeding splatter brush. And let's see, my size of this is 6%. And I'm just going to put some green dots up at the top using both colors. And then I'm going to switch to my orange and put some splatters down here. And now we can paint in our watercolor paper texture. So we're going to create a brand new layer up at the very top. We're going to change our color to black, so double tap where the black is. Come back to your brushes all the way down here at the bottom. There's a medium tooth paper texture. I'm going to select that. I'm going to increase the size all the way to the max. Zoom out from your canvas, and in one stroke, you're going to paint across the entire canvas. And this is a paper texture pattern. So when you paint over it, it's one continuous paper texture. So it's a really easy way to put the texture right on top of your artwork. And then all you have to do is change the blend mode of it to multiply, and it will make those colors blend into the paper texture much more naturally. So you can see right here, we've got this pretty texture on top of everything. So it just looks a little more like real watercolor. So that's how to create a watercolor carrot doodle entirely in Procreate. Once again, links to everything mentioned in this tutorial, including the free color palette and the brushes used, are right in the video description. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please hit the like button, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so you can be notified of new tutorials just like this one in the future. For more Procreate tutorials and freebies, head on over to my site, every-tuesday.com. You can also find me over on Instagram. My handle is everytuesday. If you try this out and post it there, I would love it if you tag me. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next week.